Sutta, and so far we have had a look at the first few factors of suffering, and now we're going to have a look at a few more. And the next one here is death is suffering. And I think we all know that that is the case. Most people consider death to be problematic and suffering. But it's interesting, the Buddha really encourages this particular contemplation. Not just that death is suffering, but just the general fact that we're all going to die is very encouraged in the suttas. The Buddha talks about it in many different places. This is how you know that something is an important part of the Buddhist suttas, is that you know he talks about it in many different places, from different angles, with different ideas. Sometimes it's called marana sati, which means the recollection of death. Other times it's called marana sanya, which means the perception of death. The idea is just to remind us that this is a reality. Yeah? They say that there's only two things in life you can't avoid, that's death and taxes. But I think death is even more certain than taxes, so it must be really certain in that case. So it's actually a very important part of the contemplative life, and we can see why that is the case. It's not very hard to understand why that is the case, because the reason is very simple. It is that everything in this world is so, in the light of death, it is so ephemeral, so it only lasts for so long, and everything is pretty much gone. Yeah, and it makes you look at the world in a different way. If everything that we build up in this world, all of that has to end when you die. Yeah? All your possessions, your body, your status, all belongs to this world. When you die, it's all gone. It means that you start to prioritize in a different way. Other things become more important. And of course, what is very important part of this is the idea of rebirth, because if you have a rebirth, then it is not everything that disappears. There's something that is left over. That which you take with you to your next life is one thing that you carry with you. So you start to think about things in a different way. You ask yourself, what is it that carries on into the future? What is it that's really worth investing in? Should I just invest in things that belong to this world? Or should I change my investment strategy to kind of think more long-term? Yeah, long-term investment is always recommended, not just by the Buddha, but even if you go down to the city of Hong Kong and you ask your investment advisor, probably say long-term investment is a good idea. Yeah? But the Buddha, even more long-term, ultra long-term investment. No investment advisor down in the city will tell you, think about your future life. I guarantee you, no one will tell you that. But the Buddha does. And this is why the Buddha is even better. Have you ever come across an investment advisor who tells you to think about your future life? Maybe future generations, maybe that's the closest you get to investment advisors. So this is why it is so powerful. This is why the idea of rebirth matters so much, precisely because it gives you that long-term significance of these things, and this idea of investing for the long term. And the idea of investing for the long term means investing in your psyche, in your heart, in your good qualities. We call these things kamma, usually. But another way of thinking about it is just how you feel about yourself. And if you feel good about yourself, the better you feel about yourself, the more good qualities you have, the more good qualities you will carry into the future. And all the ephemeral things of this world, then when you die, you will still have something to take with you. And this is how you reduce that suffering, and you think about the long term instead of thinking about things short term. It's very obvious when you look at things in this way. And this is incredibly useful in many ways. You will find that when you come on a meditation retreat like this, there will be times when your mind is perhaps restless and doesn't really want to settle down. And very often that has to do, obviously, with desires and attachments to things in the world. And the death contemplation is a very powerful way of abandoning some of those desires and attachments. Because if all the things in this world are impermanent and you can't really hold on to them and you have to give them up ultimately, how much are you going to think about those things? How much do they really matter? Where are you going to spend your time instead focusing on those things that are really long-term, have a long-term value for you? yeah, you start to change. And then when you sit down and you think like that, you think, well, I could die. Who knows when I could die? Yeah, and we all think we're going to live until a certain age, but there's absolutely no guarantee. We could die tomorrow. Are there any snakes around here?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, there you are. Yes, that's dangerous snakes then. Yeah? Probably. Okay, he's not quite sure. Okay. But there's always a few snakes around. Yeah, you certainly have them in Australia, you have them in most places. You just don't know what's going to happen next. It is always very unreliable. We think that we have a guarantee, we're going to live to a certain age, but actually there is no such guarantee, of course. Deep down, we know that is true. And when you think like this, it makes you value the quality of how you live over what you actually achieve in this life. Because the what you achieve is going to disappear anyway. This is interesting. What you see here is a change. There's a movement from focusing on the results in this life, how much you accumulate, what you get, the status you have. These things become less important. More important becomes the process by which you actually get those results. How do we make results is more important than the actual results themselves. So whatever you acquire in this life, whatever you achieve, it is how you achieve those things that really matter. Do you achieve them by living well, by living with kindness, by living with compassion? Or do you achieve those things in a way which is not so good, by maybe cheating a little bit and lying a bit and all of these kind of things? And then if you do it that way, then when you die, not only do you have to give up everything in this life, everything has to go, but in addition, you have pulled yourself down, dragged yourself down, built up your bad qualities. So when you die, you're going to feel terrible, because not only do you have to leave everything behind, but you have also kind of damaged yourself inside. There's nothing to take with you into the future. So how can we, it says also quite a bit about how to overcome the fear of death. Yeah, most people have some degree of fear of dying. There are some people who have no fear of death, but they're pretty rare in this world. Why is death frightening? For many reasons. First of all, there is a physical pain that you often have to undergo as part of dying. Yeah, you're old, you're sick, maybe an accident. There's always usually some degree of physical pain involved with dying. But that is maybe the least one of the problems. The second one of the big problems, again, is that you have to give up everything in this world, and that is difficult. Yeah, it's hard to give everything up. How can we make ourselves ready to give things up? And the third one is just the uncertainty about the future. Where are we going after this? Is it going to be nice? Is it not going to be nice? And this makes it very hard. So how can we avoid, how can we make death less dangerous or less scary? And one of the ways that, one of the nice things about being a monk, what I found is that when some of my family members passed away, was that actually it wasn't all that bad. It was, and one of the things I realized was that because I have lived as a monk for 25 years, of course that has an effect in many different areas. But one area it has an effect is that you don't have the habit of being around your family members. And a lot of the attachments and desires we have for other people are about habits. Because you are with somebody every day, all the time. After a while, they become almost as if they're part of you. If they're not there, it's as if something is missing. That's because you have kind of attached to that. They become part of your psyche, a part of who you are mentally. That is why it is so hard when they die. It's as if something has been taken away from you, because there's so much part of you. And as a monk, because you've been living a life away from people, you don't have that same kind of the degree of attachment, simply because the habit isn't there in the same way. Because the habit isn't there, then there is much less attachment as a consequence. And that tells you something about the problem. The problem is a psychological one. And another way of overcoming this is that instead of allowing the other person to fill you up psychologically in this way, you have to fill yourself up. And by that, what I mean is that you fill yourself up with good qualities inside. And the more you build up these good qualities inside, the more kindness you have in your heart, the more metta, the more understanding, the less need and the less attachment there will be to other people. You feel complete inside of yourself. And when you feel complete, attachment to other people is going to be a far less of a problem. So this is the alternative way. Instead of allowing other people to fill up your inner space, you fill up your inner space by good qualities. And this is what the spiritual life is all about. And when your life is filled up in this way, actually that danger of fear of dying is not going to be the same. And it's not just that, but it's also the case that if you have a lot of good qualities inside of you, you're not really going to fear death in the same way. It is very strange. If you feel good about yourself, if you feel that you have all these good qualities, it's almost as if you have this intuition that death can't really touch you. You know that you're going to go to a good place afterwards if you have full of good qualities. It's almost like intuition. So the more good qualities you have, the less fearful you're going to be of death. And this is why you will see people who have a lot of metta and a lot of kindness. Essentially, they're not afraid of death anymore. If you ask Ajahn Brahmāli, are you afraid of death? What do you think he's going to say? He's going to say, oh, I'm afraid of death. No, probably not. And I sometimes point out to Ajahn Brahmāli, this diet you have, you're going to die from that diet. And he does, okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. He doesn't really care about death or not. That isn't the point for Ajahn Brahmāli. The point is just to live in the best possible way. And so whatever that is. So he's not really so concerned about these things. And this is the beautiful thing. You fill yourself up in this way. Actually, you stop fearing death because you have this intuition that nothing can go wrong when you have all these good qualities. And this is where people, you look around the world, you see people, they're told that you will go to heaven as long as you believe in this particular God, you will go to heaven. But you can't believe in any other God as with this particular God, then you will be fine. And it doesn't matter so much what you do, if you live a bad life or whatever, as long as you repent in the very last moment and you believe in this God, you will be fine. But there's something wrong with that idea, and you can feel it inside of yourself. If you have lived a bad life and you feel bad about yourself, it's not really going to be all that useful just to believe in a particular God. There's so many problems with that. First of all, there's the problem there's so many different gods. Just within Christianity, they have, if you have to belong to this particular Christian sect. If you don't belong to that particular sect, then there's no way you're going to go to heaven. All other sects are evil. Our sect is the only right one. Then you go to the next sect, they say exactly the same thing. So how are you going to choose? Regardless of what you choose, there's going to be all these kind of problems. So the right way to think about this thing is actually to not worry too much about this whole God idea. That's not really the point. If there is a God or not, okay, who knows? Well, actually, from a Buddhist point of view, there is no God or creator God. But what we do know, and what you can feel for yourself, is that if you live well, if you have good qualities, then the future is secure. And you can almost feel that way if you start living well. And that is what matters. And it's a very dangerous idea, this idea that, if you just believe in the right thing, then you will be okay. I think it's very bad. If any kind of good Christian will tell you that you have to live well as well, and only when you live well is there going to be something positive coming out of this. So use this idea of death to abandon the kind of the tendencies of holding on too much to this world, attaching too much, desiring too much, and it can be very powerful contemplation in your meditation practice to help you calm down, to let go of things, to have a lighter heart. Can be very useful. And then when you think about death, in a sense, you have no future anymore. If you could die tomorrow, if you could die this afternoon because of something inside of you, maybe an illness or a crazy driver or a snake or whatever it is, whatever it is around here, there's always possibilities of dying. And as long as the future is so uncertain that you don't really have a future, suddenly the present moment becomes all you have. And this is the idea of using the death contemplation, abandoning all of these other things. But sometimes it can be hard to do this. Sometimes one of the things that I recognized recently was the power of having people close to you when they pass away, and how that actually affects you in a very powerful way. And there's many things about this, but one of the things, as I mentioned before, my father passed away about 7 months ago now, 8 months, or 7 months, something like that, 7 months ago, and it was very interesting, and I learned, you learn a lot from these kind of things. And one of the things that you learn when someone close to you is passing away, and I knew this already beforehand, how important it is to have peace with the people around you who are going to pass away. Yeah, this was one of the things that I knew this from a long time before, because I was just like most people. When you're young and rebellious, sometimes you do things that you regret later on, and then you have to sort of sort it out with whoever it is. And it was exactly the same thing in my case. So one of the things I had worked on over many years was to do the right thing by my parents. Live in a way that was wholesome. This is something that is encouraged in the Buddha's teachings. Think about your parents and your family members in the right way. And so I spent a lot of time on this because I knew how powerful it is. One of the things that you will see later on, and one of the aspects of right view, is the idea that your parents are particularly significant. So if you're able to do the right thing with your parents, you can actually make an enormous amount of good karma as a consequence. Of course, that's easy when you have good parents, not so easy if your parents are bad, but still, you can always do a little bit in that particular area. So one of the things that I did, and this was kind of very fortunate, one of the things that we often perhaps don't do enough as people, we don't tell each other enough how much we kind of appreciate each other and the good qualities that we see in each other. Sometimes we're not good enough at using right speech in our life, and also to the people who are closest to us. One of the things I realized was the importance of not always criticizing people. It's so easy to be critical, especially the people who are close to you. Yeah, you can see so many faults. After a while, all you see is faults in the people who are closest to you, precisely because they are so close. And so you have to almost force yourself to think about the good qualities in your parents and the people close to you. So I did that. I sat down one day and I realized my father had cancer. He probably wouldn't live that long. And I said, it's time for me to sit down and ask myself, what are his good qualities? And actually send him a letter and tell him about all the things I appreciate in my father. So I did that, and after sitting down and writing, ended up this long letter. It was really long, one thing after the other. I didn't just kind of make a dot point list. I kind of wrote it out nicely. Dot point, it sounds a bit too kind of transactional or whatever, too sort of whatever. But I made it into a really nice letter, and I sent it off to him. And I could tell, next time I spoke to him on the phone, I could tell that he was very touched by that, because you're not used to hearing from your nearest family members telling you about all the things that you appreciated. And it was a very beautiful, it turned out very, very nicely. And only a few weeks after that, 3 or 4 or 5 weeks after that, that's actually when he died. So the timing was actually also very fortunate in many ways. And you can feel how it kind of resolves the issues, it resolves the problems of the past, because it's as if now you have let go of that, now you're focusing on the positive instead. So remember that there is an opportunity in this life to say the good things, say the positive. That opportunity passes so quickly. That opportunity exists now. Take the opportunity now to say whether you care, whether you the good things that you have received through that relationship. And one of the things that when I think back upon how I was brought up by my parents or whatever, so many of the good qualities I have now, I got through my upbringing, through the way my parents brought me up. That is one of the reasons I probably could be a Buddhist monk. First of all, my parents had to allow me to be a Buddhist monk. You have to ask your parents. That's pretty good already. Even just allowing is pretty good. Most families say, no, we can't be a Buddhist monk. Do something useful. Don't become a Buddhist monk. That's what you hear in many families. But my family, at least they allowed me to become a Buddhist monk. And on top of that, they kind of inputted in you all these good qualities over a long period of time that make it natural and easy to carry on with the spiritual life. It's like you had a head start. So when I think back on my father's life, instead of thinking about what I have lost, that's when you become sad. Yeah, when you think about what you have lost, that's when you become sad. Instead of thinking about what I have lost, I think of what I have gained. I've gained so much. If you have a really good father who teaches you about morality and caring, about kindness and about generosity and wisdom, who guides you in the right way, yeah. So he kind of gave me the foundation work, and building on that, I can continue into the Buddhist teachings. If you have that as your foundation, wow, thank you so much, Dad, for supporting me in this way. This has given me the foundation for how to live well, how to become a Buddhist monk. When you think like that, you feel gratitude. You feel gratitude that somebody cared for you and looked after you and did the right thing for you. And this is the opposite of feeling sad. When you feel sad, you feel down, you feel negative. When you feel gratitude, you feel happy. Yeah, you feel joyful that you had someone who actually gave you all of these beautiful gifts in the world and then enabled you to carry on using those things in your own life. And this is kind of the recollection I have. Bringing these qualities I have now, in large part, are due to the way I was brought up. And then I should be really happy and grateful for having those qualities. And this is how I usually, as a Buddhist monk, we often do funeral services. And this is how I often recommend people to think at funerals. Instead of thinking about the loss, as soon as you think about the loss, you're going to start crying. Oh no, they're gone, how sad, how terrible. No, don't think like that. Remember the good qualities. Remember all those wonderful things and say thank you for all those good qualities that you have supported me with, and now I can bring those further in my own life. Thank you so much for being there for me for those years. Without your support, my life would have been much poorer in comparison. What a wonderful thing that is, how that turns things around, and suddenly you feel gratitude rather than feeling sadness. It's a very simple thing. It's just a trick of the mind, a different way of thinking. So this was my father's passing away, so it wasn't very traumatic. Even though I was quite close to my father, it wasn't very traumatic. It wasn't very difficult. It was just, okay, now you have lived a good life, now you carry on into the future. And one of the things that I did as well, one of the great privileges of being a Buddhist monk, is that you get the privilege of doing the funeral service for your family members. Yeah, it's great. You want to do that? It's really nice. So I went back to Norway, and my mother she didn't really know what I was doing this thing, so she was kind of being run by the funeral service company, so she thought she was going to get a priest, something. I said, no, I don't need to get a priest, I will look after this. I said, oh yeah, you do this, okay, good, you will do it. So I did the funeral service, and what a wonderful thing that is to be able to do that. It's a beautiful way of saying thank you, of saying farewell, and then wishing people well into the future. And it's very touching, and it's very nice. One of the nice things about doing a funeral service too is that usually at funerals people are more open to spiritual teachings. Yeah, it is so obvious when someone dies that there's a problem with this world. Yeah, it's so obvious. So people's heart kind of open up to spiritual teachings. And there I was in Norway. Norway is there's no Buddhists, yeah? And you can't see, even if you look around, you can't see Buddhists, not where my parents live anyway, no Buddhists at all. Everyone in the audience had no idea, they looked at me kind of slightly scared, who is this weirdo in front there? But what is so powerful about these Buddhist teachings is that once you talk about them, people open up and people start to listen. They realize there's something very beautiful about this. These are not the ordinary teachings that you hear. If you get a Christian, traditional, not maybe all Christian priest, but a traditional Christian priest to give a funeral, say, oh, everyone is crying, oh, it's so sad, it's so terrible, God created us, but now kind of life is gone, and what a terrible thing, etc., etc. And this is kind of the traditional funerals in a Christian country. Everyone is very sad. And I know it's the same thing also in Chinese culture, it's the same. Yeah, you're supposed to be sad. And one of the interesting things I heard a while ago is that in traditional Chinese funerals, maybe, I'm not sure if it happens here in Hong Kong, but traditionally, you would hire somebody to cry at the funeral. Is that right? Yeah? So you hire, in case you can't cry yourself, you hire somebody, make sure somebody, because if you don't cry, it's bad, yeah? You can cry at the funeral, so hire professional criers. But what was so interesting about this, and what was so interesting is that we have a Finnish monk in our monastery. He's actually in Melbourne right now, and he's building up a new monastery there, which is great there. And he said in Finland they have exactly the same custom. Isn't that surprising? I thought it sounded to me like a Chinese custom. Actually, they have exactly the same custom in Finland. And Finland is a Christian country here. So that shows you how these ideas, they are kind of spread around the world, in kind of random ways. It's weird, because you have to cry at a funeral, so you hire in some professional criers, and they cry at your funeral. But the same thing in Europe as you have traditionally in China. But it's just silly, it's just completely nonsense to do these kind of things. We don't have to grieve. Instead, we look at things in a different way, and then it becomes something very useful instead. So I think, if you think about the funeral service in the right way, it can be kind of uplifting. Is that true? It can be uplifting, because you celebrate a life well lived, and you take those good qualities with you into the future. You reflect on the goodness from the past, and afterwards you feel light. Wow, great, wonderful, let's carry on and live in the same spirit of things as the person who passed away. That was the feedback I got when I gave this funeral in Norway. People said, wow, I've never felt uplifted before or after a funeral, now I feel uplifted. Thank you. What a wonderful thing that is. And you realize that very often the barriers to listening to spiritual teachings are external barriers, like looking a little bit too weird, doing strange rituals, but actually the teaching itself is very powerful and very useful. It's one of the things I always try to be aware of in Australia, to reduce the barriers so everyone gets a chance to hear these wonderful teachings of the Buddha. So that was when my father passed away, and it wasn't, for me, it wasn't all that difficult. Obviously for my mother, much more difficult. And then a few months later, it was my sister's turn. She also had cancer, so she also was dying. And that was different, because my sister, obviously much younger, is a little bit younger than me. And so often we think that when someone young dies, it's wrong. Is it wrong? It's not wrong, it's okay. Anybody can die at any age. There's nothing wrong with that. We think it's wrong, and because you think it's wrong, it makes it worse. You think, oh, she must have done some bad karma in the past life to die before 60 or 70 or whatever. It has nothing to do with bad karma. This is just the nature of life. Sometimes you live short, sometimes you live long. The Buddha doesn't say anywhere that you live a short life because of bad karma. There can be all reasons for living a short life. Bad karma is only one of those reasons. So this is the wrong way of thinking, because when we think like that, we tend to blame the person and whatever. But what I learned from my sister's life, which was very interesting, when she was passing away, first of all, it's quite painful. I saw her a couple of months before she died, and it's kind of painful to see someone die from cancer, because you get really emaciated and thin and you look quite terrible towards the end. My sister was quite an elegant woman, kind of very tall and kind of very energetic and she was very, very nice person in many ways. But and towards the end, all that was disappeared, all gone, and she looked like this, almost like she was halfway to being a corpse almost. You started to look half dead, half alive towards the end of things. And so that is always interesting. How can you deal with that? But the most interesting thing for me was just to see, because when you know somebody so well, like your sister, you know her whole life, you know her family, you know her children, she had 2 children, you know all the things she has been doing throughout, you know all her relationships, all of these kind of things. And she was in the middle of building up this farm in Norway. She bought this beautiful farm in a place, but it wasn't in very good condition. But she was a very energetic person. She was building it up, spending enormous amounts of time and quite a bit of money on building up this farm, making it into something wonderful and marvelous. And also her children. Her children were teenagers, they weren't that young, but still they weren't really fully grown up. And in the middle of doing these things, in the middle of kind of doing these projects that were very impressive and very nice, in the middle of seeing her children grow up, she dies. These projects that we have never got finished. You die halfway. And it was very powerful when I saw that, because it felt so futile. Yeah, it felt so, you're doing all of these things, what for? In the middle of it, you just die, then the farm has to be sold to someone else, and who knows what they will do. And in the middle of bringing up these children, suddenly you're gone. It feels so futile. You never reached any real goals. You never reached any true purpose. There was no aim there. You never attained those things that you wanted to attain. Suddenly everything is gone. It wasn't so powerful with my father, but with my sister, very powerful, because she died at a younger age. And this is the nature of our lives. We do things in the middle of doing things that we think is so important. Yeah, this is so important. One of the things I do translation. I'm in the middle of translating something called the Vinaya Pitaka, which is from Pali to English. And sometimes I think it's really important. And then when I look at my sister, I think, I'm being stupid. Why am I so stupid? I'm a Buddhist monk. I'm supposed to be smarter than this. And you get carried away sometimes by all the worldly projects. Yeah? And then you die in the middle of them. And you think, wow, how stupid I was. And this is life in a nutshell. Even if you complete a project, let's say that I finished the Vinaya Pitaka, maybe I don't, maybe I will die tomorrow. That would be a good lesson for everyone. If the teacher dies tomorrow, really good lesson, yeah? It's easy for me to say you die, but what if I die? That's even more interesting, yeah? But even if I do finish the Vinaya Pitaka, then what? Well, then another project comes, yeah? Because there's no end to projects. The reason I picked up the Vinaya Pitaka translation in the first place is because there are all these projects that need to be done. Yeah, and there's no end to projects that need to be done. So you pick up another one. So even if you finish them, it doesn't mean that that is any different from dying halfway, because you just carry on with the same thing. And then when you die in your next life, because you're used to doing projects, you pick up new projects in your next life, and it goes on like this, on and on and on. There's no end to it. So still, there is no goal. There is no purpose. There is no end point. There is no final satisfaction or contentment when you can lay everything to one side and now I'm happy. Inside of you, there's the voice that tells you, whispers in your ear, if you do this project well, if you get this finished, if you translate really nicely, yeah, this will be the final, the best translation ever. Yeah, my translation is going to be the best one. Sometimes you get deluded like that. Of course, your translation is just as impermanent as every other translation. You know, maybe it's not good in the first place, but even if it is reasonably good, a couple of decades down the line, the language is already going to be archaic. Nobody's going to read it because it sounds like something out of the 17th century. Yeah, it doesn't take long before the language changes. So regardless, all of these things are, you don't actually get anywhere. You have to do it over. There's nothing there. There's no final contentment, no final peace, no satisfaction. Just on and on and on. And while you're carrying on, you die in the middle of these things. And it's so powerful when you see that in your own family. When you see it with someone you know, because you know the history, you know exactly what is happening. So when you have someone in your family who dies in this way, or who gets very sick or whatever, remember that. It's a powerful teaching opportunity. It's a powerful teaching opportunity to remind you that all these things that we do in the world, in the end, they don't have much point. Not in themselves, they don't have much point. The point they have is in how you do them, not in what you do them. And once you change like that, it actually, your life becomes spiritual. It becomes spiritual in a very deep sense. It becomes spiritual in the sense that everything you do starts to have spiritual power to it. Spiritual is imbued with spirituality. Every time you go to your work or you're out with your family, you think about, you don't care about whether your children get straight A's at school. Is there a lot of pressure here in Hong Kong for children to do really well? Yeah, so this is like, many places in the world, a lot of pressure on the children to do well. But it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's irrelevant. Who cares if your child, sometimes your child isn't that gifted. Sometimes it's very gifted. Who knows? But it's unreliable. If you have a child, you don't know whether they're going to be very smart or very stupid. It's impossible to know beforehand. They have their own karma, they have their own background. You can't control this. So instead, you're kind to your child. You understand to have a good life doesn't mean how other people look at you. Forget about other people. Who cares about them? What matters is the inequalities in your heart. And those inequalities in your heart, you build up by being kind to your children. by caring for them, by doing the right thing, then they will feel good, and they will feel good about themselves, they will have good lives, they will be happy, and that is what really matters. We're too concerned about all of these external things. So the process, how we do things, is what matters in life. How we do everything, how we deal with other people in the daily life, how we deal when you have like a division in society, like you have in Hong Kong now. You have the protesters on the one hand, you have the government on the other hand. Be very careful, because once you take one side very strongly, then you're going to start hating the other side and be negative about the other side. Don't fall into that trap. Everyone is a human being. Whether you are a government official or a policeman or you are a protester, everyone is a human being. So remember the process. How you deal with all of these people matters. It doesn't mean you cannot have a position. You can still have a position what you think is right. But remember, the other side also thinks they are right. We all, in the end, try to do the best with our own limited resources. This is always true. It's true with the worst criminals in history, the worst Pol Pots of Cambodia, or whatever they are. They still thought they were doing the right thing, even though they were crazy. And then you can have a little bit of understanding, even in those very difficult situations. So this is the power of the death contemplation. Think about these things in the right way. And when you think about these things in the right way, you start to value life in a different way. You start valuing results, instead of valuing status, instead of valuing all of these empty things that don't take you anywhere, all of these things that you have to give up when you die. You value something more profound. When you value something more profound, your life becomes inherently spiritual. Spirituality is all about how we deal with other people, the kindness we have, all of these inner qualities that we bring with us. That is a real spiritual life. So that is a little bit about death, and actually maybe for those of you who are new, here is one of the similes that I always talk about when I talk about death contemplation. Is one of the similes of the Buddha, where he talks about the kind of the limits of our life, and just very briefly, because it's one of my similes that I really love in the suttas. And in the simile, the Buddha says that everything in our life is like borrowed goods. Everything we have is like borrowed goods. We have it for a while, then we have to give it up again afterwards. Everything we own, you own it for a while. Actually, you never really own it in the first place, because suddenly it is gone already. Everything we own is just borrowed goods. You have it for a while. When you die, at the very latest, you have to give it up. Often, long before you die, you have to give it up. Our relationships with other people, whether it is a marital relationship or a family relationship or just a friend relationship, all of these relationships are borrowed. You have them for a while, then they are gone. At the very latest, when you die, often long before you die. Your status belongs to this world. Who you are in this world depends on your relationship to other people, your education, your occupation in this world, who you know in society. All of these things have to do with status. This too is tied to this world. It's a borrowed goods. You have it for a while, then it has to go. Your body is borrowed goods. Don't worry too much about your body. Your borrowed body, before you know it, is going to be gone, and it's going to be, nothing left of it. It's going to be a little pile of ashes if you have a cremation, and you're not going to be all that attached to that little pile of ashes. Are you? Probably not. Pile of ashes is hard to be attached to. And so Buddha says all of these things are borrowed goods. All of these things have to go. So think about these things a little bit like you think about a car. When you rent a car, you have it for 7 days. What do you do with the rental car? You don't get too attached to it if you're only going to have it for a week. You don't worry too much about it. You treat it well, because you know it is only right to treat other people's property well. You don't trash it or bad. You live, you do things that are right in this life, but also you don't get very attached to the car that you have rented for 7 days. So think about all of your things in life, a little bit like a car that you rent for 7 days. Remember, they will disappear so fast. Before you know it, it's all going to be gone. Before you know it, you're going to be dead. Before you know it, something else will happen. And these things will disappear. Before you know it, you will have riots in Hong Kong. Before you know it, you will have Donald Trump as president in the US. Before you know it, there will be Brexit. Before you know it, there will be upheaval. Before you know it, there will be a tsunami, an earthquake, a volcano, an asteroid hitting the earth, whatever it is. Before you know it, things will change dramatically. Don't be surprised when that happens. Be ready, and be ready by thinking in this way, by living your life well, and focusing on the process rather than the results, because the results are always out of control, always impossible to predict. And then you start living your life differently. So this is the idea of borrowed goods. So what are the goods that are not borrowed? And the goods that are not borrowed are the qualities in your heart. The qualities that you take with you from this life into the future life. They are the things you don't borrow. So make sure, again, you invest in the right place. Invest in those things that you can take with you into the future. That is where the real investment belongs. So invest in the quality of your relationships. Invest in how you treat other people. That is where the investment should be. And then when you die, you're going to feel satisfied. You're going to think back and think, yeah, I lived well. I did my best. It was difficult. I too was conditioned in ways that made it difficult sometimes. But I did my best. And you will feel so satisfied with your life as a consequence. That is how you gain satisfaction. If you forget this, if you make the worldly things the most important thing in your life, getting on, making money, having status, if this is what is important to you, and your morality, your spiritual side is not important, then sometimes you are going to not be moral, because the worldly things are more important. Sometimes you're going to compromise your morality, and you're going to do things that you regret later on. And then when you die, you're going to feel terrible. Everything has to go. Everything you built up in this life has to go, and at the same time you lived in such a way that you damaged yourself psychologically. You have nothing left. In fact, you're worse off than when you got born into this world. You have everything you built up has to go, and also you have damaged yourself at the same time. And then you can imagine how you feel. You feel terrible. Yeah, you feel like you have you have wasted your time, worse than wasted your time. You have destroyed things on the way, damaged yourself, and also damaged other people in the process. And then you feel life was wasted. I had this opportunity, I didn't take it when I had it. So this is how you think about death. All about right view, to encourage you to kind of do the right thing, living in the right way, reminding yourself, I could die today. If you're going to die today, are you going to be kind to the people around you? If I know I'm never going to see you again, will I be kind to you today? Or will I say something nasty during this talk? Probably not. I probably won't say anything nasty, because I know this could be the last time. If it's the last time you see somebody, you tend to be friendly. If you are on your deathbed, you're dying of some illness, and you know you come to the very end, is the last thing you're going to do, is it going to be having an argument with your relatives? Absolutely no way. Yeah, if you're lying on your deathbed, if you're about to die, all you want to do is want to be peaceful. You want to be relaxed. You want to kind of have a good feeling about things. You don't want to have an argument when you're about to die. Yeah? It's kind of crazy. Yeah? So because we are all about to die all the time, we're always about to die. Yeah? We just don't know. I have no idea. We can never afford not to be kind. We can never afford to do a wrong thing. We can never afford to say the wrong words or not to be kind to other people. Because this is the only opportunity we have. It's now. We never know if it's going to come back. So this is just some ideas about death. And it is a very powerful reflection, and I would recommend you to do it. And even if you just remind yourself every morning that today I could die, so that you are kind to the people around you, it gives you a bit more mindfulness, a bit more ability to think about things in the right way. Even if you just remind yourself in the morning, and then you kind of treat people better, that already is a very useful thing, just to get started with that. So there you are. That is the death, a little bit about death. And maybe enough about death. If you want to read more about death, the Buddha also has some suttas about this. They are, yeah, let's just leave it at that. We still have a few minutes left of this hour. I'm always afraid of pushing too many things into one talk because it kind of gets a lot, but let's move on to the next part of this first noble truth. So death is suffering, yeah, then we have, after this, we have the idea of association with what you dislike is suffering, separation from what you like is suffering, not getting what you want is suffering. And these are all very closely related to each other. And again, one of the things to remember here is that all of these things are inevitable. Yeah? You're never going to have everything you like in this world, and the world is always going to go differently from what you think. And there's always going to be problems and always going to be difficulties. And this is why I was mentioning yesterday about the good opportunity when things go wrong in society and when the kind of things seem to be very difficult and you wonder where the world is heading and what's going to happen with climate change. Are we all going to kind of end up back in the Stone Age? When is the next world war going to happen? Maybe it's going to happen, who knows? We can hope not, we can do our best to avoid it, but still, we are not really in control. And this is the problem, this idea here behind this, of being associated with what we dislike and being separated from what we like, is basically the idea that the world is out of control. The world runs according to its own causes and conditions. Those causes and conditions we can influence a little bit by doing the right thing, but our influence is very small, and in the end the world is going to go in its own way. So very, very good reminder, and a very good reminder that because we can't control things, the idea of having goals and aims and purposes, we can have a goal, but make sure you don't attach too much to that goal, because it may not work out. Things are going to go differently from what you think, because the world is just too complicated, too hard to control that. Then, when you think like that, when you know that you're going to be disappointed down the track, you know that things are going to be different from what you think they are, you're not so concerned about how things go. Yeah, you do. It doesn't mean that you don't do anything. You still do it, but you do it out of kindness. You do it out of wanting to support, not because you think that you can control the world. Yeah, and then you can deal even with these most difficult issues. And sometimes some of the most difficult issues are very often very small things. Yeah, like in daily life, association with a dislike can be just little things like people saying bad things to you, or this is kind of a big one. Yeah, in ordinary life, people talking to you in an unpleasant way. That's kind of association with the disliked. Yeah, so how can we deal with that? How can we kind of avoid that problem? Well, the first thing to remember is that it is always going to be like that. You can't really change this. Well, people are always going to say things that are unpleasant. Every now and again, you're going to meet somebody who says something unpleasant to you. That's just the nature of the world. Why? Because that's kind of how people are conditioned. And the reason why we get angry when people say something unpleasant to us is because we somehow think we can control this. Maybe we can tell them off, maybe we can talk to them in such a way that they don't do it again in the future. But that's just an illusion. We can't control these things. And even if you try to control people, very often it backfires anyway, because people then get defensive, they don't really want to listen to you. So because you can't control it, and because there's always going to be new people who say bad things, after a while you think, well, this is the nature of our world. It's the nature of our society that people say stupid things. It's the nature of people's conditioning. It's their inner life that compels them sometimes to say bad things. And once you realize that you can't avoid it, what happens is that you start to accept it. Yeah, you start to think, wow, people are saying bad things to me. Okay, what do I expect? It has to be like this. It's kind of unpleasant initially, but after a while you realize it's got nothing to do with you. It's not your problem. It is the other person's problem. Because it is their problem, you can just have compassion instead of getting upset with somebody. If someone is compelled to say the wrong thing because of their conditioning, then it is not your fault. It's got nothing to do with you. Then you can let it be. So understanding that these are natural things that are happening around us. That the world is out of control, people are out of control, you are out of control, I am out of control, everything is out of control, then you can kind of accept things as they are, and it doesn't become so much of a problem anymore. The problem with it, the reason why this is so hard is it feels like we are free and autonomous, that we can make decisions in our life, and we can do things differently. This is what it feels like. But I guess, as I mentioned yesterday, it is very useful to look at your life and to realize the extent to which you are not free to do what you want. Yeah, you may have noticed that in certain situations, like make you upset, certain things, and every time that same thing happens, you get upset. And very often this has to do with like habitual things. Yeah, there are certain people, often they are family members who are very close to us, and we are so used to getting upset in a certain situation, we can't stop ourselves from getting upset. At that moment, you realize how much you are a prisoner of your own past, a prisoner of your own conditioning, a prisoner of your own programming in the past. When you see how much you are a prisoner, you understand other people are exactly the same. The world is conditioned in this way. You just have to allow things to be. Association with a dislike is part of the world. You're never going to resolve it. And once you understand that you're never going to resolve it, you feel a little bit more dispassion, a little bit less interest in the world, because the world is inherently problematic. Same thing with illness, or you hurt yourself or whatever it is, and you know that sometimes this body is going to hurt, so you accept it, association with a dislike. The world of politics go wrong, climate goes wrong, everything kind of goes wrong, and then it goes right again, and then it goes wrong, and you have no idea where it's heading, where it's going to go, and everything feels out of control. Why? Because really it is out of control. So it's great to have some bad news, because it makes you more realistic about life. When everything goes well, we tend to kind of get complacent, and we forget that about reality, and then it becomes really problematic as a consequence. So this is the idea of being associated with the disliked and dissociated from the like and not getting what you want. This is just the nature of life and the way things have to be. So whenever you turn on the TV or you listen to the news and things are going wrong, you should always think, oh, of course it's going wrong. What did I expect? If it goes right, you should think, oh, okay, it's going right again. Okay, tomorrow it might go wrong again. So always remember that things are just so incredibly unpredictable and uncertain. And it makes the spiritual life seem far more interesting, because that is where you have a degree of predictability, where you can actually do something and you can make changes. So, I don't think I'm going to say much more, because I think that is probably saying too much already. Usually say too much, that's part of the problems. Tomorrow morning we're going to carry on, we're going to look at the very last part of this first Noble Truth, which is about the 5 khandhas, the 5 grasping aggregates. That is another important aspect of this. And then we will continue on. We're looking at the first Noble Truths a bit more with these other sutras that come down the track. So that is all for now. So please keep on meditating and enjoying yourself. And then I'll be coming out again at 7 p.m. today, do some more meditation together, and then we'll have a Q&A session after that.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.